Hi students, good morning. How are you all? I hope that you studied the previous topic which we have already covered. Okay, in the first chapter we have studied about different types of food materials and their ingredients. And the second chapter we have already covered the components of food items. Again, in the third chapter we have covered regarding clothing pattern of our state as well as other states. And today we are going to study about different types of objects which we see around us. Okay, today's chapter, that is sorting materials into group. Do you know why I said about the previous chapters? Because in all the previous portions we have covered about different types of materials. So today we will study about how can we classify all these materials according to their physical properties as well as chemical properties. And all these substances, according to their properties, we can arrange them in certain groups. Okay, and that grouping procedure we will call it as classification. We will say, okay, the grouping of different materials maybe according to there are certain categories. Whenever we are categorizing, whenever we are grouping many objects around us, we have to follow certain categories. Sometimes we may be depending on the object's shape, sometimes their size, sometimes their chemical properties, sometimes their physical properties, like that. So based on all these properties, based on their size, based on their shape, and based on some other properties, we are categorizing the objects into many groups. Okay, you all are familiar with many objects in your home, especially our household items. There are so many objects are there in your home. You are using many objects, and that is related to your kitchen. There are so many materials which are used by your parents, you know that. And you know that we are keeping all these materials systematically in a particular place. All the pulses we are keeping in different containers, and we are keeping it in one place, and the cereals we are keeping it in another place. Again, vegetables, fruits, like that, all those kitchen items we are keeping it in separate place. So what is the need to keep all these items in a different manner or in a separate arranged manner? We are keeping it. So while we are keeping so, it is very easy for us to identify where that objects are placed. Okay, so in order to locate the objects in our home, especially in your kitchen, this particular arrangement or this particular grouping system is helpful for your mother or your parents to locate them easily. Okay, so that is one benefit of grouping objects. Again, the second case, if you keep all this in a grouped manner or in an arranged manner, the study related to that is also possible for us. And another point is we can compare, we can do, if you want to do any comparative study between different objects, that is also possible if we are grouping the objects into particular group. Okay, now let us see what is the definition for objects. We can see there are so many objects around us. In your study material itself, you can see notebook. It's an example for an object. Okay, and you are using pen. Here you can see there are number of pens are available. Okay, all these the pens are also an example for object, and you can find there is a ball. It is also an example for another object, and we can see here there is a paint box is there. Okay, it's also another object. So like that we are able to see there are so many objects around us, and all these objects are having some certain shapes. Okay, we can classify these objects according to their shape. Then what will be the shape of this pen? It is having a long and a cylindrical shape. Okay, and if you see the shape of this box, it is having a rectangular shape. Okay, and if you see this ball, this smiley ball, can you see? So it is an example for a ball, and which is having a spherical or round shape. Okay, it is having the shape of a globe, and the globe which we are used for studying social studies, that is also having a round shape. And this ball also, you can observe, it is a round shaped objects. Okay, let me explain the definition for objects, materials, sorting, etc. Okay, so what are objects? Anything that we see or touch. Anything that we can see or touch are known as objects. Okay, that is the definition for objects. Anything we can see or touch are known as objects. Then what is material? A matter from which anything can be made. For example, we saw that a pen, just now I showed you a pen, with what this material is made up of? It is made up of plastic. Okay, so the covering of this pen, that is made up of plastic. So plastic is a material. So we can say the definition for material is the matter from which anything can be made. We can make pot, we can make instrument box. There are so many things are there. All these things, how, with which, from where it is made up of, that is known as material. Okay, the matter from which anything can be made are known as material. Okay, then now we will see the definition for sorting. Sorting, it's also known as grouping. Okay, the sorting is also known as grouping. The arranging the things in a systematic manner is known as grouping. Okay, so we can arrange the things in a systematic manner, and that process is known as grouping, we will say. Then now let us see what is the need for sorting. Now we have completed what are objects and what are materials, what is meant by sorting or grouping. Now let us see why do we need sorting, what is the need for sorting the materials. As I explained earlier, it helps to arrange the objects in a systematic manner. Sorting always helps us to arrange the things in a systematic manner based on particular categories. That means maybe arrange according to the shape, according to the size, according to the age, according to the color. So accordingly, based on certain particular characteristic feature, we can classify them into group, and that process is known as grouping. Then sorting materials into group also help us to study their properties. Okay, it makes us to study the study of those particular material will be made easy by arranging them in a particular group. So these are the benefits of sorting materials into group. Okay, in your textbook there is an activity 1. You can observe that in the textbook. In the activity 1, it is mentioned that there is a table is there. That means table 4.1, and in this table you can observe on one side of the table the name of the objects are mentioned. Okay, like plate, pen, toy, chair, etc. is mentioned. On the other side, the materials which is used for making those particular objects are also mentioned. For example, in the chart, in the table 4.1, first column you can observe that is plate. Object column you can find the first one, that is a plate. The plate is made up of, on the other side it is mentioned materials with which it is made up of. The same object can be made up of made with the different materials. Okay, for example, the lunch, for when you are having your lunch or your supper, you are using plate, and this plate can be made up of plate. So this plate can be made up of plastic, it can also be made up of steel, or it can also be made up of some other materials. Okay, in olden days we used to use leaves for having our lunch or food items. And again another one, the second one is pen. Pen can also be made with a different material. Pen is an object and different materials can be used for making that pen. Okay, so in the second column it is mentioned that is pen. It is mentioned, it is prepared with the help of plastic. Sometimes metal covering will be there for that, and sometimes we can use even wood also, okay, as a frame. So pen can be made with the plastic, or even metal can be used, or we can also use wood for making a pen. So below that toy is mentioned, chair is also mentioned, and you have to complete that table. Okay, table 4.1 you need to complete. Some of the examples are given there for your understanding purpose, and there are some more are given there, and you can add to this list many more according to your convenience. Okay, then next one, in activity 2.2 you can also observe there are one side of the table you can observe the materials are there, and on the other side the objects made with these materials are also given. In the first column, different materials such as wood, pen, toy, leather, plastic, cotton, etc. are given. A list of materials are given in the first column, whereas on the other side the materials, what are the items or objects can be made with those particular material are also given. Two columns are filled for you. The first one you can see wood. With the wood we can make table and chair which you sit and cot which you sleep. all this can be made with the help of wood. Okay, and the second one you can find paper. With paper, what all things can be made? We can make with the paper. We can make small diaries. We can make with the help of paper, and we can also make some magazines. We can make, or even newspaper. There are so many materials, and there are so many art and craft work also can be done by using colored paper. Okay, so all these are the uses of paper or objects which can be made with the paper. And there are some more are given there. You just try to find out what are the objects can be made with the help of leather, with the help of plastic, with the help of cotton, and complete that activity column, that is 4.2 table. Okay, children. Now you can see it's a piece of paper. Okay, with the paper we can make many things like notebook, magazine, or the newspaper, and so many art and craft work also can be done with the help of paper. But you just think, can you make a glass by using this paper? By using this paper, can you make a glass? So now you can just make a shape of it, but it cannot be useful for us to hold water in it. Okay, so for that we need to have a glass tumbler, we need to have, or glass tumbler or plastic tumbler we need to have, because this paper, if we pour water into it, what will happen? This paper will not be holding that water for us. Okay, that's why we need, while we are preparing any objects, or when we are preparing any objects, we must select the materials according to its purpose. Okay, for example, now you can see it's a glass of water, and in this glass you can find water is available. Okay, can you see the water? So this water is held by this glass tumbler, because it is so strong and it will not have any leakage. So we can see the water which we poured into this glass will be held by this glass tumbler, or we can use a plastic tumbler, or we can use any metallic container to hold water. But instead of that, if we use this paper, it will not be able to hold the water. And one more example, suppose if you want to make any cooking vessels. You know that in our home, for making tea we are having some vessels, or for cooking the rice we may have some other vessels, or frying the materials we may have pan. There are so many cooking vessels we have. But can you make those cooking vessels with the help of paper? No, you can't make, because when we keep it on that fire or on the gas stove, what will happen? The paper will burn. So we are not able to use the paper for making any cooking vessel, or we can't make a cloth bag for making, or we cannot make a tumbler by using a cloth, because even if we are keeping water, if we try to pour water in a tumbler which is made out of cloth, the water will not be held by them. So what you can understand from this, we must select the materials, or while we are making any types of objects, we must select the materials which is useful for that particular purpose. Okay, in order to make cooking vessel, we may use some metallic containers. In order to hold water, we may use some glass tumbler or plastic tumbler we must use. Otherwise, that purpose will not be fulfilled by the particular object. Okay, now let us see what are the common properties of materials. I told you previously, whenever we are selecting any material for a particular purpose, that should have certain properties, and if that particular property is not there, we will not be able to make that particular object. So let us see what are the different properties of objects. So the first property, that is the appearance. Okay, there are certain common properties of materials are there, we will study in this lesson. The first property is that is the appearance. Okay, what is by appearance? The condition or style in which that particular material is appeared, that is known as appearance. Okay, some of the objects in our surroundings you can see, they may have a luster. Okay, what is by luster? L-U-S-T-R-A. Luster means what? A shine. Okay, if you see gold objects, or if you see silver objects, sometimes even glass, aluminium, copper, etc., we can find there will be a particular shining on their surface, and this shining nature of a particular object is known as luster. Okay, if any object is having, even glass also having a particular appearance is a shining appearance will be there, especially new glass. You can observe glass items will have a shining appearance will be there, and even gold ornaments you will find. Now you can see it's an example for a metal which has shining appearance on it. Again, copper wire, you know that for electrical connections we are using wire, we are using, okay, and inside this wire, outside you will observe only that plastic covering will be there, but when we cut that plastic covering, inside you can find there will be a shining material is there, through which the electricity will be passed, okay, and that shining item, shining material which we see are known as copper wires, okay. And this copper wire, what will happen if this copper wire or of these shining materials are exposed to air for long time? You can see, just example I will say, if you see a nail, you can observe when you buy a new nail from a shop, you can find that will have a glittering appearance, a shining appearance will be there. And if we keep that nail in our home for many months, if it is kept in open places, what will happen now? Due to the action of this atmospheric air as well as moisture content, that iron nail gets rusted, okay. And this, after rusting of this nail, when you see them, you can't observe any luster or any shining appearance on the nail. But it is a metallic object, it has to produce a shining appearance, but due to the action of this air and moisture in the atmosphere, it is not able to produce any shining appearance or any luster on it. The materials which are showing luster or shining appearance, they are known as lustrous material, we will say. So this luster is an example for a property. When you see any object, if they are having a shining appearance, we can say that is having luster. Any such shining materials are known as lustrous material. What are they? Lustrous material. So example for lustrous materials: aluminium, glass, silver, gold, copper, etc. All these are having luster. Suppose I told you when we keep it outside for some time, it will lose its luster. In such case, when you cut it, suppose a copper wire, if you cut into two pieces, that cut portion you will be able to see there will be a glittering effect will be there, a shining appearance will be there. Okay, then what about, there are so many other objects around us like a cardboard, or even this ball, you can observe cardboard, paper, etc. are there. All this, when we cut it, we will not be able to, what we see external appearance is there, the same appearance we will be able to see inside also, okay. So both externally and internally they will all. For example, you can see this is a pencil, and this pencil if you break, how it will be there outside, that wooden appearance will be there, and if you break it also, internally you will be able to see the same appearance, there will not be any luster. In pencil, because it is made up of wood, on the outside as well as inside, they will not have any luster on it. So such materials like cardboard, wood, etc. are not at all having any shining appearance. So such materials are known as non-lustrous materials. What are they? Non-lustrous materials. Okay, now let us see the second properties of materials around us, that is hardness. Okay, the objects around us, sometimes when we touch them, we can feel it looks very hard. For example, an iron gate in front of your home, everyone's home, there will be a gate. Generally, the gates are made up of iron. Okay, and when we touch that iron gate, we will feel it is very hard. Okay, so here you can see there is a metallic spoon, and this spoon, when we try to press or if we try to scratch, it is not possible. Okay, if we try to press it, compress it, it is not at all getting compressed. Okay, so the materials which are not at all getting compressed or scratched easily, such materials are known as hard material or hard object, we can say. Okay, hardness means it is a particular property of a material in which whenever we just press it, whenever we try to compress it, it is not possible because it is made up of iron or any metallic object. Whereas when you see this ball, you can find it is soft, we can say. So when we compress it, we can change its shape. Okay, when we are applying some force, we are able to change its shape. We can compress it so easily. So such materials which can be compressed easily or which can be scratched easily are known as soft substances, we can say. For example, candle is there. Candle is also soft only, because when with our nail, if we try to scratch it now, we can take it out. Okay, but if we try to take a metallic scale or a metallic spoon or utensil, if we try to scratch on them, it is not possible because it is so hard. Okay, so hardness means if the object cannot be compressed or scratched easily, such materials are known as hard materials, and that particular property is known as hardness. Okay, and softness means the objects are there which can be compressed easily, which can be scratched easily. Then we can say such materials are known as soft materials, and those property is known as softness, we can say. Okay. Yes. Okay, children, regarding the appearance of the objects, we have discussed about two properties. One is the lustrous, that means luster, that is shining appearance, and the next one hardness or softness we have discussed, and the next one is rough or smooth. Okay, some of the objects you all are familiar. Some of the objects in our home, we can especially the surface of a wood, when you touch, you can observe it's a piece of wood. The surface of the wood almost all the time it will be rough. Otherwise, if you want to make it smooth, you have to make it polished. Unpolished surface of the wood, generally they will have uneven surface. The surface will not be even. Such a surface we can call it as a rough surface, we can say. Okay, they are of rough surface. And you all are familiar with the sandpaper. You are familiar, no? The sandpaper, on the surface of the sandpaper, we can find that is also there is a fine sand particles will be there. Okay, and these sand particles on the surface of a paper, that makes the surface very rough. So the surfaces in the appearance, we can find some of the objects, the surface may be rough, and even a piece of coal, when you take a piece of coal, you can find the surface will not be smooth, it will be uneven. Such a material which is having uneven surface are known as rough objects, we can say. Example, surface of wood, surface of sandpaper, etc. are example for rough objects. And where are some other objects, they looks very smooth or shining appearance, you can observe. Just like as I said earlier, the surface of the glass will be always very smooth. And if you see a marble floor, you can find the surface will be very fine, and a tiled floor and all you can observe, they will be very smooth. Okay, so if any surfaces which are having an even surface or a polished surface, that will be a smooth. Example for a smooth surface. Example, marble or glass, etc. are example for smooth surfaces, whereas sandpaper, coal, wood, etc. are example for rough surfaces. So this roughness and smoothness also comes under appearance, the property appearance. Okay.